What we do here is go back.
Also, there's a whereby, if you see in the Bird Brains text, you can click on that if you want to appear on screen. If not, no biggie. It's all up to you. We aim to please here. So, what were we just talking about? Infrared? Okay, so I'm very loud according to everyone. Let's see. I think my audio must be doubling. That's the only reason that my voice would be...
No, I don't know.
Why is my audio doubling? I don't fucking know anything. Oh. All right, testing, 1 2 1 2. Chat 1 2 1 2. Did my volume level change? Did my volume level change? Has the volume level gotten better? Is it more? It's a little bit of a lag, so.
Don't listen to the
volume
chat.
level is now good. Okay. And we've got the infinite recursion, which is always good. Oh, you know what I can do? Oh yeah, that's right. That's how I got out of the infinite recursion last time. There we go. So it's just Dylan, and if anybody else who wants to jump in with, unless is it? Oh wait, you know what? You might actually be there already.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to let me in.
There you are. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Is that they give me a signal? They have me trained now. The mods have me trained that if they ever play this one sound over my stream elements, that means that I fucked up something. So that's how I knew my volume was messed up. So we got Merrick, we've got Dylan, we've got Kevin if he wants to be on camera. Otherwise, you can just be on voice. And then we're waiting for one more aristocracy. There's Kevin. There is Kevin.
Hello.
I wonder if we're gonna get a Rory cat. Chat, what do you want to place your bets? Will we get a Rory cat along with the Kevin?
Hang on, is that? I'll have to go on my shit webcam thing though, because my regular camera is like being used by my OBS.
Oh yeah. That's what I actually use the Okay, so let me set this up once again, and then we're still waiting for aristocracy. She will, I'm sure, be here in no time. Is Dylan doing like magic tricks?
With a jaw like that, he can do anything he wants.
With a jawline?
Yeah, have you seen it? It's like a god.
It's a pretty good jawline, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm not somebody who notices jawlines.
Fair enough. That's
wait, isn't that like I'm not somebody who sees color. It's like, yeah, oh sure, whatever. You're judging people's jawlines and you know it.
Exactly.
Now I'm
You're
even more
focused.
sure.
You're focused on the bulge. Let's be honest. Come on now.
Wait, I can't see the bulge, can I? Unless it's a different bulge that we're talking about.
Oh no, I just meant in general.
In general, the
I
bulge
was just
is,
generally slut shaming you, for God's sake. Ugh, some people.
That's valid. That's valid. Rory is an angel. That is absolutely true. Everybody in my chat is a huge fan of Rory, so Rory cats are in chat very much. Dylan, I guess I should write to him is wait, how did I lose Merrick? Let's see what happened. Nah? Yeah, there you are. Okay. Oh, I see.
Wait, am I good?
Not you. And it proves RGR was right on something that we disagreed about a long time ago.
See, I'm now muted, chat, so I can talk to you.
Right. So I refuse to look at the recursion or infinite regress or whatever the hell it's called. In actuality, there was some dispute. But yeah, so basically, yeah, that right now you can see the infinite regress or the infinite egress. I don't know.
I think it's regress.
Phil Weddle, I can see you.
I'm just being silly now. Okay, here we go.
Disregarding shit. Like being rude to Rory cats, and I might have to.
Yeah, the egress is the thing like
give you the back of my hand
or something, and it's just like the exit.
Just saying.
All right, that looks good. I'm happy with this. Okay, I'm happy with this so far. And then we gotta will a cat appear?
I should put the chat up as well, shouldn't I? 1 second.
So just so everybody knows, we are now streaming live. We can talk if
no.
Yeah. I had a really interesting Bird Brains last week. I was on YouTube, and because YouTube is a fucker when it comes to streaming, it was just a shit show.
Oh, that's
that together.
Why have you been on YouTube streaming? What happened there?
What am I doing on YouTube streaming? Well, it turns out that there's a little thing that we like to call synergy, right? It's when you get your there's Eris, yay. Okay, synergy is when you get your YouTube going with your Twitch, and they feed into one another. And then if you're a Demon Mama, you get a TikTok going, and you could get all kinds of things. And there's synergy with each of these like new places. You sort of add just almost an indefinable factor, I would say. Okay, so we're gonna reorient our screens once again. Now we've got Eris, now we've got Merrick, now we've got Dylan on the top. Okay, I can do this, and we'll have Kevin.
Dylan on the top.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind being on the bottom, Kevin. Is that okay?
I was meant to bottom.
Big mood, Kevin. Oh wait, can we get everybody in? Okay, without the infinite, no.
Well, I don't know if I can fit everyone in. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, I didn't even see that I did that, but I did that. Chat. I went there. Okay, I know how to do this. I'm a pro. I'm a pro at Whereby, at least. That's the one type of software I really know how to use. All right, there we got Kevin. And we are gonna just kind of snap you into place like that. Wonderful. And yeah. There we go, chat. That's definitely something. That is definitely something. Oh wait, I better know what I can do to make this look a little bit better. It doesn't quite look like the hippy dippy, but then again, I don't have. Oh no, it's the infinite regress. We don't want to go there. Chat. We do not speak of the infinite regress. We will leave it like this. We will leave it imperfect so that I can, for one more day, deny that RGR was right. The simple truth that I refuse to accept. Wait, we can just do this. Yeah. No, something changed. Something changed. Okay, somebody went out temporarily. They'll be back. I think we'll be good. Who just left? And did they say something about it in Discord?
My life.
Well, it's me, but I'm trying to figure out what is happening right now.
Oh, with your video?
Yeah, I'm not in Whereby anymore.
They kicked you out?
I'm gone now. What's happening? All right, I'm gonna log out. You let me back in?
Yeah, I'll be watching it this time. I'm so bad at that. I'm so bad at like watching all the screens, but I'll get right on it here.
Okay.
So that we can get started with our epic platformer conversation that we call Wrestle brainia, right? Wrestle brainia, if you got the joke. I don't get the joke exactly, but my chat tells me that it's a very funny joke to people who know wrestling. So
It's pretty good.
all right.
You could have gone with Hell in a Brain Cell.
Interesting.
That would have worked as well.
What brain cell?
Hell in a Brain Cell. Hell in a Cell is a type of wrestling match. Never mind.
Oh shit! See, this is the problem. I'm in full bimbo mode here. I actually took a bimbo test, and it confirmed what I was afraid of, and what like apparently everyone in my community already knew, is that I am in fact a bimbo, which means that I know things, but like I don't know certain things, and they're very obvious, and it's a little bit cringy. So this is our panel. We've got Dylan, Burns, TV in the top left. We've got fighting in the upper right corner. Kevin Logan fighting out of the lower left corner. Aristocracy of Collopian Club. And fighting out of the other place right next to Eris, Merrick Deville. The lovely and talented Merrick Deville. Yeah, there we go. That's how an announcer would say it, right? Dylan, am I getting it? Am I getting this?
I don't know. I hire my announcers. I don't do the peasant work.
Yeah, that's right. And you're definitely your production values a little bit reflects that too. You know, you've got the super cushy Mr. Geek TV created overlay.
Yeah, it's so lovely. I mean, you would know because you react to all my debates.
All your debates. Yeah, all the debates that are fit to react to, definitely. You've had a couple that seemed a little bit boring, but I could be wrong. You know, some of those things, once you get into them, it's like a spring roll. You know what I mean? You think that you don't want spring rolls, but once you kind of open it and you are like, oh yeah, no, this is the one with like noodles and cabbage. You know, I was afraid it was the one with shrimp in it. I didn't want the shrimp one. I wanted the one with noodles and cabbage. And you know, once you get into it, you're like, yeah, actually this fresh roll. I mean, I meant to order spring rolls, honestly, because spring rolls, those are the bomb. But spring rolls, fresh rolls is what I wanted. Spring rolls was what I ordered, because to me, spring means fresh. And so I see spring rolls, and I'm like, that's my thing. And it's like, no, spring rolls are fried. They should call them fried rolls.
I've never heard someone saying the N-word compared to noodles and spring rolls and shit, but that's cool.
By the way, he released another video about it today.
Oh, what a bitch, man.
Another one. He now has 40 minutes of content.
Mr. Geek?
No, I hypocrite.
Oh, jeez.
About
his previous week's debate.
His heated gamer moment.
He's now has 40 minutes of content complaining about him not being able to say the N-word.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they're stretching material thin, but like a half a second N-word, and he's stretched it to 40 minutes of content. Fuck me.
You want to know what surprised me the most about it?
What's that, Dylan?
Like, you know how like in SJW videos, they'll find the most unflattering picture of you ever, right? So like use on the cover. And if you look at our hypocrite videos, he does the same thing. He used like the most flattering picture he could possibly find for me for the thumbnail.
Dylan, there's no such thing as an unflattering picture of you.
Oh, no, there is. If you saw the Tree of Logic drama when she despised me, she found the most unflattering pictures of me. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's one of the benefits of being a VTuber. You know, you control like every angle.
Yeah, well, I'm so pretty. People just think I'm a VTuber. That's all.
Right. I've noticed that Eris is always like on model as far as her VTube avatar. Like, I get some people like they do the thing where they're it's like it's good, and then like what is it? If you turn your face too far, then your character goes all wonky. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mine will do that. That's why I haven't set that part up, and I'm not sure if I should because I feel like it'll freak people out.
Yeah.
Because it does the same thing and it goes like wonky because it's 2D.
So yeah, anybody seen any good debate championships lately?
I've heard of this one called the Hippy Dippy Championship.
Championship.
They're pretty big.
Yeah,
I'm
it sounds like a
familiar.
hot ticket.
Is that
Well,
the one?
you should know. So if people don't understand why Dylan is on this program, I actually didn't want to have Dylan, but you own, I don't know if you remember, but you still own Bird Brains technically.
I still technically own Bird Brains, yes.
Still, yeah, and if you understand, that's why I'm not allowed to say the word that I can't, that I literally just got, like, I literally just got censored, right? I'm not allowed to say this on Bird Brains. Any other show that I have, any other stream that I have, it's fine, right? On Bird Brains itself, no D word, even with the soft Y. Wait, no, what is it? The soft X?
I don't know. I don't engage in such terrible actions.
You wouldn't know. That's right. You wouldn't. Yeah, you've never attacked and dethroned the patriarchy before, so yeah, you would not.
No, I'm not big into daddy and mommy like type stuff.
Daddy and mommy type stuff? Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm sure you're somebody's daddy.
Nope.
Mommy?
No.
Yeah, I am not into that either. Cake shame, but it always.
Wait, and what
I never really understood like the whole
not into kink shaming. Into kink shaming. Is that what we're not into?
I never got the whole parental stuff. Like, why do people want their parents in the bedroom? Like, what's the whole daddy mommy thing?
Well, it's like driving, Dylan. You remember when you learned to drive? Like, did you have I don't want to universalize this because some people learn to drive with other people other than their parental figures. But for me, it was definitely my dad, and it was a fucking nightmare. Because like something about having him in the car made me super nervous. So I just need that neurotic anxiety to really charge my libido. I think that's what it is, Dylan. I think that's why I have issue. Can't fucking say it. God damn it. Could you stop it with the what are you doing? How are you doing that? How are you muting my stream?
It's just how it works, you know? That's a financial power.
Did you put like a voodoo curse on my stream with that cane that you had today?
You mean the snake? You mean the snake stick?
Yeah, the snake stick.
I call it the Vosh stick.
The Vosh stick?
He's a snake. He's a snake.
Slithering?
That is actually the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. How did you get that?
Stick. How did I get it? You know, just I think Mitch McConnell gave it to me in a Raytheon meeting.
Wait, was it Mitch McConnell or was it an old man by the crossroads that gave it to you?
What's the difference?
Hey-o.
True.
So, conclusion is, Hippy Dippy was fine. Okay, what's next topic?
Absolutely no problem with anything on the Hippy Dippy. Yeah, no, it was a perfect set of events. Well, you know, there's actually two. Yeah, so topic 2 is the 2 Hippy Dippies that happened recently, the last week and the week before. And
topic 1 and topic 2 were both Hippy Dippy.
Do you want me to separate them out?
Okay, you can make them all. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Mel first? Here, let's go at me first. I'm the one who platformed Mel last, so I got stuck holding the hot potato.
No, I think you'll find.
And as a result, I don't know if you know this, Dylan. As a result, like I got canceled by some people on a certain subreddit of a very popular streamer.
Excuse me.
So Dylan, I feel your pain a little bit more than you might realize.
I have to step in here and say that actually I platformed Mel last out of all of us here. So.
Oh, you were the last one to hold that hot potato, but did you go at Mel? Because apparently I was too nice.
Yes, no, I did. Yeah.
I made the mistake of platforming Mel stoned, and apparently I am too nice when I am stoned. The reason for that was that the Vosh debate was so toxic and just awful and tough to get through that like I was warned. They said don't undergo this sober.
Yeah, but she's fucking trash
Irene,
though. Like,
quick question. When the conversation that you're talking about, is it when she spoke with Shark and they had an entire conversation about me in which she pretended that we were talking about women's issues and I kept trying to randomly victimize myself the entire conversation when really what happened was I was like, hey, please don't call Xanderhall this word because we were talking about Xanderhall, and I was like, it kind of sucks, like people have done it to me, I don't really like it, and then she tried to say that I was telling her that I've suffered more than her because she's a trans woman. Is that the
That
conversation that you're
precise
talking
one.
about?
Yeah. It came out recently on YouTube, actually. That's the one piece of that stream that actually survived the nightmarish. Oh my God, that's the banned word. That's the banned word. Okay, well, I'm glad that somebody clarified that. We got a poll on how do you say that word with a soft consonant? Soft consonant. Yeah.
What word?
The word that I'm not allowed to say.
Don't say it.
Well,
No,
I'm going to
just
try
say it.
not to.
I actually don't know what word you guys are talking
Wait,
about.
no,
I
I
don't know
think
what it
that.
is.
Wait, no. Let's ask Dylan. Dylan, is it just me who's not allowed to say the D word on the stream, or is it also my other guests? How does that work? What does the contract say?
Well, so don't worry about it, okay? Don't worry about it. It's all good. There'll be a certain set of consequences if you say it. Don't worry about it.
For me,
Of
or
course.
for them? What about for
everybody.
them? For everybody.
Both-
Everybody's got
both show will be shut down.
consequences. Okay, so Dylan's playing this hard. Okay, so that's how we're gonna do it. Okay, good to know. All right, so yeah, there was, I got my small pool of haters, just decided that, like, essentially I was tied at the hip with somebody and Merrick, that stream that you're just talking about, the last time that Mel was on Bird Brains, that was where I went off on her. I yelled at her. That got me canceled by Tanky Twitter. That was the one time that I've been canceled by Tanky Twitter. Merrick knows a lot more about that than I do, but yeah, it did happen to me that time. When you go up against Mel, you tend to get a lot of negative attention from some very little sense of humor. These people. Very.
The hive follows her.
I've
Basically.
never met her. I've only heard of Mel, and people talk about her as if she's like Voldemort. But
She's not. She's just exceedingly dishonest. She weaponizes idpool and is almost exclusively a bad faith actor.
Correct.
And she has a lot of people who really enjoy that and don't ever hold her accountable or take her to task for anything because they harbor a shared hatred of the people she goes after. So all of her bad behavior is given a pass and amplified by people who enjoy the pain that she's causing for her targets.
That sounds like Voldemort. I don't know.
Yeah, having listened to the conversation again between Shark and Mel, yeah, I did notice a lot more bad faith than I had seen. I don't know. I kind of feel like the scales have been removed from my eyes when it comes to Mel. I thought she was nice. I had talked to her a number of times. I'd kind of probed her for what exactly, like, how much of a tanky was she? Because, like, in my opinion, I know people that are MLs and they feel like they get called tankies regardless of what their views on Stalin are, regardless of what their views on that just that designation gets them. And so they sort of wear it proudly. They're like, yeah, I'm a tanky. And I ask them about, all right, so we were genocide, is this happening? And they're like, absolutely, and I'm like, wait, how are you a tanky? Whatever. It's like a thing. I kind of put Mel into that camp too. And I feel like I fell for the pleady face. Like, I really wanted to believe that she was being 100% upfront. But recently I sort of noticed, because I don't read, I had her blocked on Twitter from way back, right? I was afraid of tanky Twitter coming down on me. And I don't read her stuff on Twitter. When people showed me what she'd actually said to Vosh, I saw her as a lot less of a victim than I had when I first watched that debate. I kind of felt like Vosh was being mean to her for no reason. But the thing is, I didn't have the context of how she had been to Vosh online for ever, right? And what Vosh was actually responding to. Now, did he go too far in some areas? Probably. But adding that context and seeing her sort of talk to me one way and then talk to tanky Twitter another way, seeing the kind of like separation of that message and the managing of like people's opinions of her. That's what really made me,
So, when you had her on and she was talking to Shark and she was like, oh, Merrick is personable and she's relatively well spoken and that's why she gets all these passes that she does, or she was speaking about me in a relatively reasonable manner. That same day, she was on Twitter calling me a racist, a Klan member, and a transphobe. And in my transphobia.
Wait, can I ask a question quick?
Sure.
Are you a member of the Klan?
No, I am not a member of the Klan.
Not a member.
Nor have I ever been a member of the Klan.
True. Then why are you wearing cat ears?
That is an excellent question.
Yeah,
these are my only headphones. I'm so sorry. But she was saying on Twitter that I'm this horrible, evil bigot. I'm a terrible person. And then in your conversation, literally the same day, within hours apart, she was saying, oh, well, she is very personable and I think she, means well, like all this sort of thing. She just she just centers herself. So, yeah, she's very nice, but she's not very kind. And I don't know that we need to, honestly, I don't think that it's ideal that we spend a lot of time talking about her because I don't really, I mean, not like right here, right now, but I'm saying like we in, less terminally online circles spend a lot more time dunking on her or talking about her because I think what she wants is attention. And I think that the more time that we spend directing attention to her way, the more she gets what she wants and the more it helps to solidify a base around her who will prop her up regardless of any of her bad behavior. And I think she's so bad faith that it's almost bordering on irresponsible to continue to have her on shows or continue to talk about her or propel her views forward into a more mainstream audience.
I don't necessarily agree with that. So the thing is, I think obviously Mel is engaging in some stuff that is like disingenuous with how she like interacts with questions. Well, she'll dodge questions very effectively. She'll kind of slither away from it. She'll post stuff on Twitter and be like, no, that's not what I was saying, when it's very clear to anybody with two brain cells to knock together. That's what she's saying.
I mean, she's boosting right now that I'm a pedophile. Yeah, I mean, so.
Okay, yeah, I understand she's boosting right now that you're a pedophile. But when it comes to like the content of what she's saying, it 100% depends on whether the person in the room has the ability to push back and is willing to push back on the stuff she's saying. What I mean by that, right, is somebody having a conversation.
Dylan, I was too stoned. I'm sorry. I got stoned, okay? I'm sorry, Dylan. You're right. Not effective pushback. You're guilty.
Well, I didn't watch your conversation with Mel. I have no clue if
Okay, so you weren't subtweeting me there? Okay, I felt really attacked by that, but that's okay. I was just my own insecurities speaking, not Dylan. Yeah, there we go.
So if you have, like, for example, I had two long-standing conversations with Mel. My most recent one, I did everything possible to like hold her to account to everything she said. She made a claim about like, well, I just want what the people of Korea want. Then I show her polling from Korea. Then she tries to attack the source. Then it's like, here's the source. Well, when was it done? Well, here's the date of when it was done. And like, it got to a point where she was like in a corner and basically just had to pivot out to defend it. And I did not allow her to pivot out of the question when it comes to like, is it a genocide? What's going on in Xinjiang? I held her down and kept asking it, explained to her why her pivoting out of it made it look terrible. I did everything possible to hold her to account there. The problem is a lot of people don't go into it with the tools necessary to take it apart, with the background and history on foreign policy to know what she's saying is wrong, and with the knowledge of Mel to know like the type of tactics she uses. A great example would be like her Ilhan Omar tweet or her tweet on April Fools, right? Where she says there, like, are you accusing Ilhan Omar of xenophobia? No, I'm not accusing Ilhan of xenophobia. No, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Or you're trying to ask her what she's doing, and instead of her answering what she's doing, she'll just say everything she's not doing, like with her talk with Vosh, right? Which means that she never has to answer to actually or make or like commit to anything, because if she commits to something, then you have something concrete that you can actually be like, okay, let me explain what
so
that's
she's
wrong.
not, she's very non-committal, yeah.
Yeah, and what you need to do is point out her inability to commit to a position and just show how ludicrous her not committing to a position on a topic like in Xinjiang is. But then, of course, there's the thing like she tweeted on April 1st, which she'll say Lamau was just a April Fool's
It's just
joke.
a meme, yeah.
But the thing is, if I was like, so let me explain how 6 million couldn't be killed during the Holocaust, like everybody would be like, and then I actually put well-known conspiracy theories in the video, then it's not really a joke. It's not me mocking Holocaust deniers. The point of the tweet was not to mock.
It was that she doesn't think genocide is happening.
Yeah, she was also she was propelling it with just 100% disprovable stuff.
Sure,
right?
it's layers of irony. Like we literally know that fascists do this. We know that this is something right out of their playbook. I mean, we all know it's just a meme, bro. It's just a meme, bro is literally a meme because of this. I understand what you're saying. I just think that I'm a little bit more cynical than you, in that while I think that you are someone who is competent enough to push back, and I do understand the validity in what you're saying, and I have faith in you. I think that there are a lot of people online who don't care about that at all. And I don't want those people to learn of her presence, not care about rationality, not care about the truth, but now have a new person to rally around because it's team sports, and thus giving her more of a network of people who are just as horrible. I don't like strengthening the bullshit network. Essentially, that's what I'm concerned with.
Yeah. The thing that I understand, like the idea of her like getting more reach with this to do more damage, right? Which is what you're kind of talking about.
Yeah,
So it completely depends on like this is how I look at it, right? So if somebody's interacting with nonsense like genocide denial or nonsense about the Korea Peninsula, I'd rather them run into that video of me talking to Mel than just one of Mel's posts isolated. Just one of somebody's content like that isolated. So a lot of it depends on the moral calculus of how bad you make a position look, how much pushback you give to make it worth the time you give that person in the spotlight, right? For example, if me platforming Trump right now would be in a lot of areas terrible. If he just comes on to spout off nonsense, that'd be terrible for me to do. But if I bring on Trump and I'm like, here is a tape of you shouting multiple racial slurs and talking about how you love the Ku Klux Klan, then the amount of damage done to his reputation far exceeds any amount of damage that could be done by me of platforming that individual in that instance. So it all depends on that moral calculus, which a lot of people just want a hard line when there isn't one to be made.
Is your point of view? Hold on one second. Is your point of view with this that there are more people who are going to be rational actors than there are people who want to rally around her and just kind of seethe and cope? Like, is that sort of what you're getting at?
I think that there's vast more people who interact with this and don't like what Mel's doing, don't like what Mel's about, than people who do. And when we think about the people who do, it's a very insular, isolated community that they're not going to be they're not going to be like changed anyway. What you're trying to do is make sure the new people entering the situation or people on the edge interact with the situation saying, oh, this Mel person is off the walls.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's my...
I guess they're just so loud.
Yeah.
So it just feels like there's a lot of them.
That's the problem.
You think the woman's loud? Okay, that's a little weird. It's a little weird.
Don't do this to me.
I think that this is in general like the problem with platforming. I don't think like it's as easy as just saying never platform. I think you always just have to do like what Dylan said, like where you have to do a calculus. Like I always just look at it from a consequentialist perspective and think of like, do I think that this person is likely to be humiliated? And then by consequence, a ton of people have their minds changed. Like I had on CC, I platformed a notorious British turf, right? And I got a lot of hate initially from my LGBT club, like on there, and I was really determined to, if I was going to do this platform, to do it in the most responsible way. So I worked with my club for a month to try to decipher like what are the ways that we can defeat turf arguments, what are the consequences of these ideas. We even had a lecture beforehand from I think Django the Science Lab guy about the problems in turf arguments, right? And then as a consequence, by when she was on here, almost every turf I knew on the server, right, or people who were secretly turfs and they were scared to say something, their mind was changed because her arguments were just defeated over and over and over again. But there's also other situations where, especially in the early days of CC, I feel like I platformed people and I didn't do it in the really responsible way. So I almost had to learn like a hard lesson. And I wonder if, Irene, like you kind of feel like what happened the other day for you it's kind of like you learned like a hard lesson that way. It's so hard because especially when you want to be charitable to people, and it's easy to buy into this like idealistic idea that the best idea always wins, but that's just not true, because someone can just be really good at rhetoric, and another person, and the person who's opposing them who might have the right idea might be bad at rhetoric, or might just not be equipped to deal with that kind of problem.
Yeah,
I wonder what you think about a situation where, the bad faith actor that you're having on to kind of make an example of, you bring them on and they immediately start gish galloping, rattling off a whole bunch of points that aren't commonly dealt with, right? That aren't things that people have heard of before. So these are new ideas just out there, boom, 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 boom. And then you're in this situation where you got your gun and you're like, okay, I was ready to shoot down one of these ideas. I got a lot of firepower here. I know the turf arguments. I could get any of these, but I can't get them all. What do you do then?
No, exactly, and that's why it's so
all these
important.
little worms wriggling away into people's brains, and those brain worms are gonna, bear fruit. That's what scares the fuck out of me. And I'm like, thinking about it with the Mel situation, yeah, I was probably, there was probably some of that going on too. My attitude going into it was like, look, if I present a sympathetic, face, if I present, a non-threatening situation, then I can get the person to say more or less, what they really feel, or at least try to explain their perspective. And sometimes things come out in that, safe space that might reflect badly on the person talking, right? Like, as much as I'm being this nice, kind of friendly person, there's a hard edge to that too, in that I will give them excessive amounts of rope. And if they indeed are going to hang themselves, I will let them do that. And that's, sometimes my debate tactic. It doesn't always show up on first watch, but I don't know. I do think of this in terms of the ideas that we're putting out, and that's what I really worry about. And Dylan, I kind of want you thought about that, the situation with the sort of random mutant ideas escaping into the ether, and you're stuck with only, you can only blast like 3 of them. Like, what would you do in that situation?
It really depends on like who's in the room, how many people are in the room, and if you can really like list everything down so you have it down so you can deal with it, right? Because if somebody comes out, right, and they say 20 points, right, and you only address 5, and then the other person's like, hey, wait, the person's been talking forever.
I can't get a fucking word in edgeways here.
The best thing you can do there is say, wait a second, you made
I'm having
these
a
many
nightmare.
points, list them out, and say, I only got to address 5 of them. Let me finish my points before I can even make some of mine, so you can make it very clear to everyone that you're not just there like gish galloping, or how Rob says it, gish galloping. I love how Rob says it. You gotta, like, if you make that very clear, then everybody will be like, oh wow, he really only has addressed 3 points. And so you and then, not to mention the fact, most likely when you're going through those points, that other person across the room is probably who, no matter who it is, going back and like probably while you're making those points are poking more holes in it, like going into you, and like when you try to respond was like, well, what I really meant was this, or well, you forget about this fact. And so you need to make that very clear. Having more people in the room who know how to do this makes it easier. So then if you waste up your speaking time, you can pass that speaking time to someone else. And you want to make sure that you have people who are familiar with the topic material. So you're not just having people who have to quickly Google stuff, so you can only take down 1 or 2 stuff.
What you're saying is it's kind of a team sport is how we should be thinking about it. It's like baseball, right? If I can't get to the ball, maybe Dylan comes in from the outfield, right? Because I'm playing in the infield.
Yeah, it's a complicated match. You're making a team to deal with these points, right? If you look at how I make Hippy Dippy, a lot of times I will choose people in relation to certain topics that are on it. So if I'll have somebody in there for an economics topic, somebody else in there for a policing topic, right? Now, the person who knows a lot about the policing topic might not know all the ins and outs of stock trading, right? But that's what the other person is there for. So they can represent that part, and any like little gaps they might have could be held up by that person who might not know a ton, but knows some, but knows a lot more about the policing topic. You're building kind of a team there of people to support each other's arguments and deal with these points. But really taking the time to address the points is the best thing you can do.
True, but you don't really need that with.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say you don't really need that with someone like Mel though, because Mel's not. I don't want to be rude because I don't think, as Vosh said, I don't think she's actually stupid. Because for a start, that lets her off the hook for the ramifications of genocide denial. But or at least to a degree. But she's not the sharpest tool in the box, and I feel like it's relatively easy to make her look a bit silly. And ultimately, I can't think of a single instance where she came out of a debate looking good.
Kevin, do you remember the Dr. Heem debate? Did you see
Yeah,
that one?
I did.
I thought that actually Dr. Heem did a pretty good job, despite being like objectively wrong on some things that he was saying. He was still able to come out of that debate, pretty good. And if I had been on there, I would have had some exceptions to take with his whole capitalism versus socialism diatribe. He has this idea that basically the authoritarianism, instead of seeing it as there's the compass is bullshit anyway, but instead of thinking of the compass, he's like, yeah, the authoritarianism is down here at the extreme right and the extreme left. And I was like, yeah, there's also other forces that play on the center that I think we could discuss, but that'll have to be a future debate. But yeah, I thought he did a really good job on that debate, and it made me realize watching that debate, that was the first time I saw Mel, drop the ball on so many things that it became obvious that there was a lot that she was talking about that I think, like you said, she wasn't exactly in command of those facts the way that she portrayed. And like Dylan said, a lot of her logic is basically inductive, that she's working backwards from okay, how do I make this position okay, rather than saying, how do I start from the facts and decide if this position is okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's basically true.
One of my biggest issues is how Mel is dealt with, and I've never met her, so you guys might be all completely correct about her. But I have met tankies that deny what's going on with the Uyghurs, and I feel like the tactic of just calling them genocide deniers and treating them as if they're the same as Holocaust deniers is just the wrong tactic to go by, right? Because first of all, when the Holocaust was going on, even the Jews that were walking into gas chambers did not realize that there was a full genocide at that level going on. It's very hard in general to prove 100% that genocides are going on, while they're happening. So I think instead the tactic should be
same thing happened in Rwanda, by the way.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I just think the tactic should be we shouldn't have to prove that it's literally a genocide in order to do something about it. Right? That, especially when you say things like never again and stuff, how are you ever going to say never again if you're only going to get involved once it's 100% proven? So I think you're already setting yourself up for failure when you engage with tankies and stuff, focusing so much on proving it 100%. I think the argument should be very much focused on let's demonstrate this is going on, and this is going on, and this is going on, and therefore it's incredibly likely that there's something there's at least really bad human rights abuses going on, and that's why we need to do something.
Well, can I just step in for a second on the history point there?
We know that they're in re-education camps. We already know that this is happening. I think you're right. We're kind of spinning our wheels and wasting our time going, do you believe in a genocide? I personally do, but the fact that they're in re-education camps alone is enough that it's a human rights violation and that it's a fucking issue. So I agree with you that we shouldn't be fucking arguing with these people about this.
And the point with Mel was that she was too uncritical of the government of China, of the Communist Party, and that I think a lot of this stuff, just like with Haas, the justification of freaking communist billionaires and communist landlords was worth it to be able to say that at least this government's fighting American imperialism when no one else will, right?
Yeah. Can I just step in on a point of history? I agree with Eris's general point that you don't have to necessarily know it's a genocide to do something about it, because it's bad before it becomes an out-and-out genocide. It's just murder or whatever. But on a point of history, a lot of people did know that there was a Holocaust going on, a full genocide going on before that. The World Jewish Congress released reports to all of the Allied governments in I think it was 42 or 43, outlining what was taking place there. So people even outside of mainland Europe knew full well what was going on there. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there was a general understanding.
As late as 1944, where there was Red Cross tours of gulags, where the Red Cross would go back to the Danish government and say, everything's fine. Everything's peachy. Everything's great because they prepared one of these scheduled tours beforehand where you'd go in and all the Jewish people are like listening to classical music and dancing and wow, everything seems fine. And I don't know if that looks like anything else to anyone else, but I mean, that's something that that authoritarian regimes committing human rights abuses have done for a long time.
Well, Himmler, the orchestrator of the final solution, like he literally said that the primary tool, and they actually learned this directly from the Turks when they did the Armenian genocide, that the primary tool for doing their genocide, the final solution, was deception. Deception was so effective, and they did deception on the micro level when they were telling Jews that it was just showers, and they were doing deception on the macro level, like what Dylan was just mentioning. So to me, like, just aside from all the other huge evidence, the biggest thing to me is how secretive China is being. And how much you can connect that to other areas and other genocides in the past.
Yeah.
Like there should be at least some kind of international standard for transparency with this stuff.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, the comparison that Dylan made there about the kind of staged camp visits. One particular aspect which struck me was when there was a staged camp visit in China. They had this thing of like, oh look, the inmates have got these planted gardens, like they had little allotments they were like growing food on and stuff, and they were like, well, how can they possibly be oppressed or anything? They've got their own little gardens and stuff. It's a nice little place. And it struck me in my mind that there was propaganda photos that were going around in the 1940s of literally the same thing, where they would have these staged events where they would go into these camps and the Jews had little plots of land and they were growing vegetables on them and things. And I thought, it's the same. It's 70 years later and it's the same fucking tactic.
Yep. The thing is, right, for example, I went through all the points made in like the video that Mel released on April 1st, and I like retweeted it and went point by point by point why it was complete nonsense. Eventually she deleted the tweet. Wonder why. Anyway, one of the things I went into detail is about, like, she said thousands of reporters have come here. The problem is you need independent reporters, not people who just go along the government path. You need unrestricted access to the United Nations, which China continues to deny. These are all the things you need. And the thing is, by the time China eventually grants them, it might also be already too late.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, people will go there and they'll have their photos taken from them. They'll have their reporting equipment taken from them. They'll be arrested and detained and questioned, and they'll go through the whole ringer. And you're like, wow, I love this press freedom that the people who got pre-approved and then went through the whole government tour and not into the restricted areas. Wow, press freedom. All these people have visited. Well, then under that logic, then, I mean, what Holocaust? I mean, look, I mean, the Red Cross visited multiple ghettos, so I don't see what the problem is. It would literally the same exact logic.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. The for me, and I get where Eris is coming from in terms of labeling people too strongly, and maybe that being rhetorically not the most efficacious approach. But it's difficult on a personal, truthful level for me to look at it any other way. These people are little better than Nazi collaborators during the Second World War, frankly. They're actively engaged in covering up massive crimes against humanity.
I would say the
problem that I have, I guess, with
like the German American Bund, that kind of pro, a certain nation and unwilling to see the
Well, that's the thing. It's dishonest from the very get-go, because then they don't actually genuinely not believe that there's a genocide going on. They find it politically. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, that's fine. I think one of the problems that I guess I see with this discourse, in general, I mean, I've seen China participate in genocides before this, right? Like in the Darfur genocide, a lot of people don't know about their involvement in that too. And I think in the mid 2000s. But one of like my frustrations with the way I guess people have been engaging with this topic and engaging with them, because I mean, I don't know a lot about what's going on with the Uyghurs, but I mean, I know a lot about the Holocaust and I know a lot about Holocaust deniers. And so there is like a term called soft denial, right? Where you equate aspects of the Holocaust, or you equate Holocaust denial with other conflicts, even conflicts that like come very close to genocide, even conflicts that literally are genocide because they're literally at just different scales. There's a lot of debate like amongst historians about what the nature is of soft denial, but I think one of the problems that I see is people like equating denying the Holocaust completely, not comparing is totally fine, but equating it to denying the Uyghur genocide, because when you equate it, right, first of all, I explained like earlier why those two situations are very different. I would not have hated people as much for denying the Holocaust while it was going on, even though it's almost more dangerous while it's going on, because of like how hard it is in general to prove to the level, especially when you're talking about genocide. You're talking about the legal definition of genocide, or you're talking about the historical definition of genocide, talking about it like colloquially. There's all these different terminologies of what that word means, and so that's when it gets kind of messy. So I would just say like that you don't want to completely equate it with it, because the thing that's dangerous, particularly about Holocaust denial, in comparison with other forms of denial of other genocides in history, is that Holocaust denial is not just denying something happened, it's also saying that something else happened, is that it's saying that there is this massive Jewish conspiracy in order to further the rights of, you know, the scary Jews like in the world, right? Israel, etc., all of this stuff.
The global Zionist, whatever order.
Yeah, and that's the really bad part of Holocaust denial. It's not really like the denying history, that's bad, right? But the reason why it's so bad and the reason why it's illegal in a lot of places is because of the latter. So I'm interested to hear, because I haven't met a lot of tankies, so I'm interested to hear if there is that part of Holocaust denial in Uyghur genocide denial. If like, obviously I doubt that they think that the Jews did it or are part of that, but is there any other kind of conspiracy aspect?
There's this idea that it's basically the CIA is doing it to counter China, and that a lot of these Uyghur testimonies are actually just CIA shills, and that if you look at America and the terrorist movements from the region that went to Syria, and when you look at America's support through Timber Sycamore for certain groups in Syria, and then you also look at the East Turkestan movement and how a lot of them are based in the United States, it all points to this being a huge CIA plot for us to cause instability in the area, so therefore we can undermine China. That's the conspiracy.
Yeah, I think that's the best. The real comparison between Holocaust denial, as in the capital H Holocaust, the German extermination of Jews, and the current Uyghur genocide thing, is a point that I think Vosh made in his debate with Mel about the idea of dismissing inconvenient evidence. That Holocaust deniers, whenever they're given a piece of evidence of the huge mountains of evidence for the Holocaust, will say, "Oh, that's Jewish propaganda," and when a Uyghur genocide denier sees a piece of evidence, it's CIA propaganda meant to destabilize China. It's basically a slightly more sophisticated way of just screaming fake news at the problem and hoping it goes away.
Yep.
To me, that makes it sound. Sorry, you could.
The thing is, the CIA does, and like the American government has lied before.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, anybody can point to that fact and say, "See, America's lied before. Therefore, you guys need to like this. This time is also a lie," which we don't have evidence for that. Right?
Yeah.
Of course, just because somebody's lied once, or an organization has lied once, or the circumstances behind that has lied once, does not mean that every single time it speaks, it's a big old lie.
Well, this is the thing.
That's a ridiculous standard.
The West doesn't do itself any favors, both on a moral level when it lies or does genocide itself, but also it loses its moral standing to have a go at China, and also gives tankies a way out by just doing whataboutism about genocide of Native Americans or Aboriginals in Australia or whatever. When it does that, it loses the moral high ground to be able to criticize that, which is really annoying, as well as the fact that they killed lots of people too.
I think that what you speak
I think that's why That's why, like, when we're talking about Holocaust denial or genocide denial or anything, we should really be focusing on the ideas of why people are doing that rather than the denial itself. The problem is that in this situation, we're not looking at it from a historical perspective. It's literally going on right now. So in a way, what I'm saying is something to be done in like 30 years. And I just caught myself. I was like, why? People are literally dying right now. That's like, you should not be thinking like that. So I apologize.
Yeah, what you're speaking of is kind of like speaks to my point earlier about the motivated reasoning. And that's like sort of how I suss out, who's lying in a situation. Now, look, like there could be motivated reasoning for the United States to say shit about China that's not true. What would that reasoning be? That would be if the United States had a geostrategic interest in invading China. That move would be a nightmare for the entire fucking world. There's actually not really a motivation there. And you could say that there's a motivation for kind of cock blocking China in the UN. You could say that there's a motivation for, trying to kind of, bad mouth, China in terms of what it's doing in Africa. But you can't really, so you think that there are forces in our military industrial complex that want World War III to transpire?
Okay, so I think, to say that would be like there's no motive for America to be in Vietnam, so there's no way we could have lied about the Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Wait, no. In Vietnam's that's not biting off more than we can chew. Theoretically, America could do.
Well, it was in the end.
The point I'm making is you don't need to invade a country to destabilize it. You don't need to invade a country to act in the ways that are against their interests, right?
Yeah.
We have done multiple things to the Soviet Union, like with spies and stuff, and they've done multiple things to America that was not direct war, but was meant to destabilize it. For example,
do you think that we need propaganda to justify that? Those kind of like clandestine moves? Do you think we need propaganda to justify those? Don't we do those like without?
Here's a great example of something like recent. We don't want to go to war with Iran, but there has been multiple nuclear incidents where there was obviously cyber attacks on Iran to undermine the nuclear program, because there was strategic interest in undermining the nuclear program.
Yeah, there was a sabotage attack.
Go to direct war, and I don't think that this is like some big CIA ploy and it's all fake, because I think there's evidence from so many sources, and a lot of it direct Chinese government sources, that shows that there are massive human rights abuses being done, mass surveillance, extremely restrictive laws, internment camp. There's a million things I can get into. I just think the idea that there would be no motive whatsoever for America to have lied if we did is incorrect, because obviously the reason why we're talking about this, like for example, Mike Pompeo didn't talk about this because we care about the Muslims. Mike Pompeo didn't. The Trump administration doesn't care about Muslims. In fact, we have reports from John Bolton in 2017 telling Xi Jinping in close quarters, what you're doing in Xinjiang is good, telling him that the mass internment of Muslims is good, which isn't a surprise from the candidate who said, let's ban Muslims from entering the United States. Let's bomb civilians. Let's target Iranian cultural sites. Let's commit war crimes. Torture is good. Not a huge surprise when you really think about it. But he also said,
really quickly restate what you thought my argument was, because I feel like you're responding to it.
You said that you're looking to America for motivations for why we would do this, and the motivation you saw is that, well, because we might want to go to war with them and start World War III, which
no. Here's my thing about that. Like, so in terms of World War III, like if this is indeed a genocide and that's what's going on, then the responsible moral thing to do, the American mythology says that we step in for things like that. The American mythology says never again, right? We would be, if we had 100% confirmed proof, there it is, fucking genocide, it's brutal in there, folks, right? Then if America doesn't act, there's a little bit of a, oh God, I guess Superman's, lost his touch or something like that, right? And whereas, so there's not an interest to really full on confirm that the way there was with Vietnam, where they did want to get in there, where they did want to introduce their troops to the area, and they thought that they could
still be an interest. There would still be an interest. Our interest would be in destabilizing a rising world power that is counterance to our geopolitical standing by isolating them from the world community due to human rights abuses. And I guess the other thing that people talk about with the East Turkestan movement is the idea that causing instability in the Xinjiang region, right?
Yeah.
Which is an important mineral resource region.
Well, not just that, but there's
the idea.
Potentially, because you don't have to destroy an ally to defeat them. You can just weaken them
An
to the point
ally?
where...
Kevin,
Oh, sorry,
you mean
an enemy. Apologies.
An adversary.
A great example right now, by the way, Myanmar. There was an obvious genocide taking place in Myanmar against the Rohingya Muslims. We placed Magnitsky sanctions on officials involved. That's about it.
Yeah, I was about to say
I mean, there's multiple genocides that have happened that we've done.
Just to speak to just to finish this point off with you, one of the things that Mel talked to me about was she mentioned several companies that had sent representatives over to the Xinjiang province to check it out, to see, like, is this going on, to see, like, do we need to pull out our operations there. She used the fact that those companies came out with a negative report saying there's nothing bad going on here, there's no problem, as an argument to say that, like, you know, well, if the companies, you know, this is capitalism, right?
I was about to say,
it's okay. So, you know, and so, you know, the
Can we think of any reasons as to why capitalist companies wouldn't want the bad PR of them having used enslaved labour?
Nah,
well, that's the thing, right?
No.
You know, no. Here's the deal, Kevin. It's cover your ass. They send their representatives over there, a third party, right? They send a third party over there. The third party says everything's okay because that's kind of what they're paid to say.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
They come back and they say and then when we find out whatever happened there, then they can say, oh my God, we sent a company over there to see if it was going on, and they said no. Oh, we were lied to. We were victims too, right? You know, let's cover your ass.
There's a few things, right? The first thing is the company would want to cover its ass, and the second thing is I doubt the government gave them like access to all the information necessary to make a correct assessment about what's happening in the region. There's no way they would give them that type of
and their
access.
interest isn't necessarily in finding that stuff. Like, I mean, you're right, Kevin. They don't want to be associated with a genocide, but at the same time, the investigation itself is a means of covering one's ass, saying that, like, a third party checked this out.
Yeah, these companies don't care.
That there was no genocide.
Companies don't give a fuck. Companies will use sweatshops. They'll use enslaved labour. They don't give two fucks.
But they need to be able to cover their ass.
Well, exactly. Yeah. That's what they want to do. It works for it works for both. It works for the Chinese government because they can say, "Look, we've allowed these Westerners from, let's just choose someone at random, Nike, to come over here and look. It's fine, right?" And it works from their perspective, from the companies, because they can say, "We went over there. The government showed us this. It was absolutely fine. We have totally ethical produce." So it's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours situation.
Right. So there's a lot of motivations here, and, like, you know.
And it's interesting, by the way, that Marxist-Leninist, supposedly an anti-capitalist, would use the say-so of capitalist companies as a defense for their position.
Well, she was trying to play that off as a strong point of, like, look, if even the capitalists say what we are saying, then we must be right. And I was kind of,
the thing is, okay, there's private property rights in the Chinese Constitution. It was enshrined in the Chinese Constitution in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
The three represents, it's the people, the culture, and the ability for I think it was advanced production capabilities. And the three represents was basically used as a justification, and a lot of dingus get angry at this, but modern China, baby, was used as a justification for, like, a lot of this, like these companies coming in. It could probably be used as a modern example. For example, the most billionaires in the world exist in Beijing. Of any city in the world, the most billionaires are in Beijing. All of these things, and it's because the Chinese government acknowledges that having large-scale companies in its nation helps expand industry, helps and through what it's done, its economic performance, has helped make it a massive industrial and economic superpower. And so these companies also love the access to labor and access to a market, and they would not want to have the bad PR. There's multiple reasons and incentives they would have. But of course, we can't run off incentives. To what? Sorry, Dylan. They would have incentives. They would have incentives to not look under the couch cushions.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, well, I'm just, like, I'm a little confused, at least to the way that this relates to, like, the topic. So is there a topic? People are upset with Dylan.
Oh God! Well, see, that's another topic. That's a whole other topic.
Right? People are upset with Dylan for having.
People are upset with me for having had Mel on and, you know, been stoned and extremely.
And Dylan's had her on too, right?
I've had her on, but I think only one person were angry at me for that. But then, like, upon review, I had the person on. They said, "Never mind, you did fine," because I was probably one of the
Who was
I'm
that?
not trying to like toot my own horn here. I'm one of the few people who could actually be like, no, here's the sources. Here's why you're wrong. Answer the question. And I think that's part of the reason why she was not extremely confrontational in that talk. And I had to like put on the heat was because
well, that's what I was going to say.
You're not going to be able to pull her tricks like with other people. You can't pull
Yeah, I think it's just really important when you have a big platform to be humble and honest about what your abilities are and what your abilities aren't. And like with you, you're like the thing that you know about is foreign policy. You're really good with foreign policy. So obviously you're equipped to handle someone like her. I would not bring her on my stream. I would debate the term genocide. I'll talk about like the term and the meaning and all of that stuff and the history associated with that, but I would not be able to talk about the facts going down on the ground. So it would be really irresponsible for me to like bring her on, especially when it comes to such a really important topic like that.
You want to know an opportunity I have, and I'm heavily considering how I would go about this interview because it would have so much attention on it, and I don't think I'm going to do it. But I have the opportunity to interview Adrian Zenz, which would piss off so many people to such extent, and I would have to spend so much time getting like the toughest possible questions that it's just not worth it. There's some conversations.
You should probably explain
responsibly, but the effort is just too much.
We should probably explain that he's like the main
Adrian Zenz
dude,
is an extremely controversial scholar, and the reasons why, and a lot of people, is because he's a little bit of a religious loon when it comes to like the rapture and stuff like that. He has some pretty backwards views on homosexuality, and he has made some of the like larger disputed claims by a lot of people online. And he's just also, there's a lot of just general anger towards him that I would just rather not deal with. I just don't want to I don't want to deal with that lens on me at the moment. I have too many lenses on me.
So let me see if I've got your take right on this. So you're saying that you think that somebody like Mel, there is a responsible way to platform them, but you've got to be the right person to offer that pushback.
Yep.
And you've also, you've got to make sure that, the situation lends itself to the result that you want. So essentially, somebody that's an easy clap is what you're saying, Dylan, is a responsible bad faith actor, or not bad faith actor, but like for instance, genocide, Uyghur genocide denier to have on.
Not necessarily an easy clap, just someone where like the situation and people involved make it so you can come out of it on top.
Well, so the argument needs to be an easy clap, not necessarily the debater.
Okay, an interesting and extreme example then, Dylan, and I pose this only as a devil's avocado type situation. How about Holocaust denier?
I have the same stance there. If I had the resources and knowledge on the Holocaust to be able to talk to them, and be able to tear apart their arguments, then 100% I would do that, because I'd rather people interact with that than their content.
Scenario.
But again, okay, Nick Fuentes.
If I had the talking about the Cookie Monster, do you mute him?
It depends whether or not I have the resources to deal with that conversation. Obviously, on Twitch there's TOS concerns, but let's like pretend where there's like this magical channel where there's no TOS concerns. Then it would completely depend on whether I had the resources to deal with it or not.
Well, it's funny. I actually had this conversation with Destiny of all people. Wait, am I not allowed to say his name? Someone told me in chat. I don't know.
That's the D word.
I think someone's trolling me.
Or he'll appear.
But yeah, so I had a conversation with him where he actually said, because I think he's really good with rhetoric. And he said that he would actually never debate Nick Fuentes. He wouldn't platform him because he thinks that guy is like just so good with rhetoric. Like I think that's why I think it's in general, it's important to know like what your limits are, and not to let your ego sometimes get in front of you. I know like I can be really guilty of that sometimes, especially when I'm looking at something and I'm like, well, the truth is on my side. The thing, lawyers prove every day that the truth can be manipulated with logic. And so, yeah, you need to be really careful with who you bring on and all that stuff.
Kevin, that's how I almost got canceled by your chat by saying lawyers lie a lot, and somebody in your chat didn't appreciate because their parents were. But I was so committed to the bit at that point that even though I was like, yes, I'm sure your parents are lovely people, I had to go hard and be like, yes,
but
did your
lawyers
parents
do
say
lie.
That you were very smart when you were young? Then they're liars.
Well, yeah, but lawyers do lie. I mean, when you know your client is guilty, you have to lie.
Yeah.
just a part of the job.
I didn't mean to insult lawyers. I meant to. Yeah, it was a compliment, right? Like that they're so good at that.
It was just a reference, and they took it really seriously. But yeah, I get canceled all the time. It's okay.
The lawyers hate me now. I had this exact same problem, especially like with Holocaust denial on CC. Like when I first started CC, like I wanted it to be totally open marketplace for ideas, just very high quality ideas, right? So I would allow people to come in, talk about Holocaust denial, be Holocaust deniers, and I'll just defeat them point by point by point, and all of that stuff. And I felt like I was pretty effective at it for the people I did engage with. The problem is like a platform like Discord is so different than something like Twitch, where you have complete control over it all whenever you want, right? Like when Dylan turns on his stream, his control over it versus when he turns off. Whereas Discord's 24/7. So there was just no way that I could control every conversation, like wherever that Holocaust denier was going, what he was doing, who he was talking to. And just regularly, he might be engaging with someone that just didn't know how to respond back. And there's some really good rhetoric tactics that they use. And so it's like, I had to like learn that the hard way. And I still feel really gross about the fact that I allowed that on my server for a long time. But now I don't. So I kind of went through my own journey, I guess, like with how to handle platforming and stuff. Like I'm wondering if the other content creators went through the same thing, where you kind of felt a certain way about platforming one thing and then you changed your mind.
I remember once when I was a lot younger, I was in a Discord call with somebody who was like a really hardcore racist and into a lot of race theory and was recommending like racist books. And I was like, well, his position is racism. So when I have this interaction, I'll be correct and I'll do great because he has the incorrect position. And I think for a lot of people, they think because you in your own head have the correct position that you're going to perform well because they have the incorrect position. There's no way the incorrect position can lose. And they just don't understand how much time people spend crafting disinformation and working on rhetoric to be able to take down positions that are almost completely indefensible if you were working in good faith.
Some people even consider it a challenge.
What do you mean?
Oh, like that it's a parlor game. You know, it's like, oh, hey, can I defend this this point of view, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people on Twitch do that all the time.
Yeah, and that stuff is so dangerous, right? Like, I used to do that all the time. I'd go into like a Discord server and I'd troll certain attitude, and I stopped doing that because I realized the consequences can be really, really grave. A lot of people don't know this, but flat Earth like theory it started as a pure troll by debate users online, just as a way to try to stretch your muscles and argue something that was considered incredibly challenging to argue for. And what do you know? They were way more effective than they realized. And now tons of people are genuinely flat earthers.
Sure. A lot of anti-Semitism and flat earthers. Oh, yeah. Flat Earth movement. Yep. A lot of people don't realize that it's actually, well, it's a meme. Haha, it's funny. There's a ton of hateful ideology tied to it.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that makes sense, right? Like people who are into conspiracy theories tend to be into a lot of conspiracy theories, and a lot of them are tied into anti-Semitism. So I guess that's not really all that surprising. I also think it seems to be a lot of like right-wingers that are into that as well. So it makes sense that they link up. I do like that you brought up Discord, Eris, because I think that kind of like it can segue into like other social media platforms. Because we've been talking about like platforming people on YouTube and Twitch and things like that. But I think it also might be worth having a discussion about how we deal with these people on Twitter as well. Because I see a lot of the bad behavior is happening on Twitter, and a lot of these ideas are spreading on Twitter.
Is everybody open to like kind of segueing over there? Or are there any final memes about this topic before we talk about like, kind of platform specific stuff like Twitter?
No, I'm fine.
No,
okay.
Good.
Yeah, if everybody else is good with it, I'm good with it. Yeah, let's talk about Twitter. Talk about the IMPS code.
So
can I rant about something with Twitter? Sorry, I'm Merrick. If you want to go first.
No, go ahead.
Something that really annoys me with Twitter. I talked about this earlier today on my stream, but that Twitter seems to have this total double standard with who is putting out like hateful content. I have met so many Black Hebrew Israelites who are like anti-Semitic as hell on Twitter, and they're just like allowed to say whatever they want. And I just don't understand like why they get away with it and like Nazis don't. And it just feels like in general there's a huge double standard like associated with it. I'm actually totally for deplatforming on a place like Twitter. I think one of the reasons why Donald Trump was so successful was because he was allowed to just do whatever he wanted on who's getting to make those decisions, because they obviously are not, you know, they're not sitting there with like a philosophy book of like ethics and like, oh, well, Kant says this and this person says this. They're, you know, they're just going off of what's useful for them economically. So that can be really frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I just got my main account taken away because I told Cassandra Fairbanks that I was going to become her new stepmom and shut her internet off. But she was able to write a Gateway Pundit article about how Lil Nas X threatened to rape Caitlyn Bennett's father. And that was totally fine. And she's able to tweet things like, we need a fascist to be in office. And the things that I want to tweet in my drafts would make Mussolini blush and things like that. And like, that's totally acceptable. And there's like, I think you're completely right. Like, it's completely arbitrary. I've seen so many people, like tankies especially, saying like homophobic, transphobic, super terrible stuff. And Twitter's just like, no, not a problem with it. You'll report it. And they'll be like, no, it's fine. I don't know.
So, Eris, what do you think is behind that? Do you think it's some kind of like a, you know, ID poll essentializing certain groups as being victims and then therefore not seeing the bad faith actors within those groups?
Yeah, I think there's that. I think there's just a tendency of all humans in general to be really tribalistic and have this attitude of like, oh, the enemy of the enemy is my friend. And so like, oh, like when they're talking to someone who is, say, like, I don't know, like someone from the Nation of Islam, they're like, oh, well, we both hate white nationalists. We both believe in, I don't know, protecting Muslims. So we must like have all these other things in common. But in reality, like there's very little you have in common. And so I guess like people are just on average just not ideologically consistent. They're more tribal. It's frustrating.
I think a lot of it has to just do with the algorithms and a lot of them not being able to adjust for a lot of the like language where the like algorithm doesn't understand. Like, get on the wall. Like, how is the algorithm supposed to like interpret that? Oh, the wall is in a reference to execution fire. There's no way the algorithm is going to understand that. And I think there's a good chance that most people, like most actual individuals, don't understand it. So I think like a lot of the stuff that's tested for, which is like traditional, like racist and hateful language, like with slurs and stuff, doesn't know how to deal with like this kind of new custom, like more online speaky type of threats of violence.
The excessively online bad faith actor is going to come at it with that knowledge, knowing kind of what they can get away with saying. Yeah. I mean, this is somewhat
like, for example, like Bad Empanada like said like said me and like others like me should be put on the wall, right? Like, but if I reported that tweet, like, is that going to like, I know Bad Empanada got removed today from Twitter, but it wasn't for like something like that. It was if Twitter staff interacts with that tweet, they're just gonna be put on the wall, like
I mean, yeah, if they're leftists, they're gonna get away with it.
Like a painting? Like, what is that? The thing is, I don't think they're letting it go because a left-winger said a violent threat and they're left-wing, that's okay. I think it's because they just don't know what that means. And the algorithm's not gonna understand like how wall could be used in a hateful manner.
And the person saying the spicy thing kind of knows too, like how to dodge that algorithmic banning most of the time.
The alt-right have been doing this, well, basically since the alt-right have existed, with like they and the bracket marks and stuff like that.
I was going to say the Cookie Monster with Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, but they get mass reported now and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, when we interact with Twitch TOS, a lot of us will do like, for example, I hate to bring the bathtub streamers, like 90%, like in a lot of other contexts, like what's going on in the bathtub streams would 100% get you banned. But then they found like the kind of loophole with like the bathtub streams, like to subvert around Twitch TOS to like be able to do what they're doing, right? And there's a lot of stuff that we see on Twitch where people subvert TOS guidelines and will basically use that to get away with what they're doing, which is 100% going on with like the rhetoric we see online. People just don't want to get banned.
So I think that we should. So this is something that I put out yesterday, I think, actually, was that I was thinking about it, like a lot of these takes that we see, like what is it? I don't even want to say his name, but you know, the guy who said all Vosh fans get the wall, like that was like a week worth of discussion over that. And nobody could decide, well, I mean, actually it seemed like more like there were two camps that decided two entirely different things. And a bunch of people kept saying, oh, it's just a joke. Oh, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It's okay to make jokes like this. And I guess I kind of like think now that we're at the point where like, I don't even know if we should be, not that we shouldn't be responding to it, but like people like that individual who made that tweet, people like Mel, people who we know are speaking in bad faith, people we know are going to lie about things, people we know are going to weaponize idpool when it's convenient for them. I'm kind of at the point now, and I want to know if you guys agree that instead of like quote tweeting or responding directly to this stuff, what I think that we should be doing at this point is like taking screenshots and blurring out people's names and blurring out their information and kind of like combating and dealing with their ideas, because I do agree with you, Dylan, in that when you spoke about earlier, like there should be pushback to this sort of honestly really vile shit that we're starting to see.
The place where I really agree with Dylan is that, like, you know, if we don't interact with this stuff, if we kind of wall ourselves off from it, because it is horrible stuff and you do want to kind of just like make it go away, then when it actually comes to, you know, that encounter, you know, where you can't get away, where you're going to end up talking about it, you can end up looking pretty ridiculous. And just like Dylan's saying, even a shit argument, even a shit perspective can gain traction if it's been...
If given the right environment and unharmed.
Right, so that's why I'm saying we should be responding to these things, but I'm at a point now where there is so much drama attached to people's names, like Mel, for example. If you respond to a Mel tweet, it's going to be a week of people saying that you are a racist who harasses trans women of color. So there's so much like baggage and drama associated with interacting with Mel that I think that the right thing for us to be doing at this point is to like obscure people's identities, don't directly quote tweet them, like that way that people can't say you're sending your audience to harass them, because that's another thing that they do. And I think that we should like block out who the person is and engage specifically with the idea. So that's something that I'm going to start doing, and I'm curious to know if you guys think that would be effective.
I think it depends on the interaction, right? It depends on what you want out of it. Do you just want to criticize the idea? Then okay, maybe that makes sense, right?
Sure.
If you just want to criticize the idea, then it does make strategic sense to do that, because then the person spreading these terrible ideas are not going to grow,
and they're not going to play victim either.
There's not much they can like do there, right? But they could of course be like, Lamal, you can't even quote tweet me, Lamal, right? Yeah. So that's one thing. But if your purpose is to bring attention to like how terrible this person is, then you got to keep it unblurred, right?
Sure.
Like if I found an old tweet from a senator that was like them yelling the N-word, me blurring it out wouldn't make sense, because my whole point of my tweet would be, oh my God, this senator said the N-word, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of it depends on exactly what you're trying to get out of it.
Well, I mean, I think that we should be, I mean, isn't kind of like the point of this discussion, like how to figure out like how to deal with these people?
Just
like, the
interrupting
most
to
strategy
say
for dealing with this, because
penis.
what I'm seeing right now, personally, what I'm seeing is
that
an
is all.
increase in what sort of seems like hysterical, extreme, violent rhetoric. I mean, I've only been on Twitter since like August, but I've seen things look like they're ramping up. And maybe this is like a cycle that I haven't been online long enough to know that these things just happen. But it seems to me like it's getting worse and worse and worse all the time. I mean, do you guys see that?
I mean, part of it's,
Or do you think it's my particular situation?
I was about to say, I think it's partly down to how people react to you, and I don't think this is not a criticism of you, because I think that a lot of the hate you get is absolutely ludicrous. I genuinely don't quite understand why you get the hate you get, but I think it is more specifically a thing that you have inspired this hatred within these fucking people somehow, and that kind of spirals, and they become like their own little weird cottage industry of Merrick hate.
Yeah.
I really don't even understand. Like, I actually don't understand. I haven't followed it. Like, why they don't even like you?
Well, I have followed it, and I don't. There's no reason for it. It's nonsense.
Well, that's not necessarily true. There are things that I should take responsibility for. In September, I I allowed someone to stay in my hotel room, and while she pretended to be asleep, I kissed somebody in another bed. So she went on Twitter a few weeks later and said that I sexually harassed her by doing that. And then I said that I didn't hate Vosh for the N-word thing, that I thought that it was bad, but that I thought he has grown as a person. And then in November, I had a tweet go viral, and I was talking about Western media outlets and how they weren't covering the strike that happened, the very large strike that happened in India, and then I attached my OnlyFans on the end of it. So I was like talking about Western media outlets and showing.
This is what I mean.
You know, then I attached my OnlyFans on the end of that.
I'm gonna step in now and white knight, because none of those things are remotely to the level of the hate you get. Like if someone didn't know who you were and stumbled onto like a hate thread about you, they would think you were fucking Osama bin Laden reborn or something. They talk about you like you're genuinely evil. Yeah. It's mad.
I know. But
yeah, I almost feel like you must be lying, right? Because not that you're lying, but it's just so crazy. I don't understand. Yeah.
So I mean, you guys are not seeing like a ramping up of tanky rhetoric?
No, I'm definitely seeing it. Ever since like 1,000, what is it? No comrades under 1,000. It seems like a lot of tankies like actually took that really seriously and did some major praxis and like built each other up to where we have to hear their bad shitty takes now. And
yeah, but it'll be okay because they'll go through puberty soon and they'll be through it. It'll be fine.
Well, Demon
I'm actually tankies don't freak me out as much as like I feel like everyone's just realizing they exist, but they've been very, very active in academic circles for a very long time. It's been like a problem in general, like in the scholar world. They call themselves Marxist-Leninists. So I don't know. It's there's a part of me that's just like, now you guys understand. You guys understand what like, because there's starting to be so many like Zoomers and stuff. But obviously it's an issue.
Well, Demon Mama, when I talked to her last, she had an estimation, or no, actually, I think this was on her stream. She mentioned that there was 3,000. She did a rough estimate, and like she said 3,000 to 10,000 max, right? Was the size of tanky Twitter. So it's not as big as a lot of people are making out.
Wait,
but it is very.
What was her estimation based off of?
Yeah, what?
You'd have to ask her. You'd have to ask her. Yeah, citation needed. But like, yeah, I mean, we'll talk to her soon.
It feels like it's a lot bigger than that. Like the tweet about SDL today got like 6,000 likes.
Yeah,
that came from tanky Twitter.
Yeah, the SDL thing got like 550 retweets.
A lot of these likes and tweets and retweets come from people who are outside this environment, don't completely understand where it's from, or will agree with a certain. Like if someone is like, tanky Twitter's like, the CIA is probably behind everything in Xinjiang. Like, I think a lot of people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, just like CIA did something. I know CIA, they do bad stuff. Right?
Yeah. You know what? You're right. I shouldn't have said that, because I did look through some of the more particularly violent comments, and it was like straight up fascists. This is something that I've been seeing a lot. Yeah, it's the Red Brown Alliance. When you see these horrible tanky tweets about people, and you go through and you're like, oh, these are Nazis. These are actual Nazis.
Well, you can tell the Red Brown Alliance is very much a thing, because you go through the like you say, the SDL thing today, and
it's awful.
You literally play a game of, is this a communist or a Nazi, and you can't necessarily tell because they're basically Nazbols, all of them.
Yeah,
so,
I don't want to say that they're Nazis, right?
Speaking of
I understand,
Nazbols,
No, it's like some of these people are literally like in their bio, they'll be like Groypers. Like we're not saying, oh, these are communists who are like, class reductionists or who are Nazbols. We're talking about there are literal Nazis.
Yeah, they'll have the skull and crossbones logo.
Yeah, they'll have like 1488 in their shit, like Nazis.
Okay, never mind. That's really weird. That's like literal horseshoe theory. I guess like the reason why I get defensive over that is like when people talk about the Holodomor being like the exact same as like the Holocaust or something, when historians are still like debating the intricacies of that. So, but yeah, obviously. I've heard it from the right wing like a lot, where they just like automatically are always saying like, oh well, the leftists have their own Nazis,
Sure,
like,
but there really is unfortunately a Red Brown Alliance.
Yeah, and it's this weird thing. Like I call it the Nazgul vortex. All right, this is kind of what I'm talking about. The thing that Vosh has been on lately, and what it is people that are trying to infiltrate the left. Some of them calling them Marxist-Leninists. Some of them that Kevin and me have, and I don't know who else. Maybe Dylan, you've dealt with Haas, right? Infrared, right?
Yeah, I debated them once.
Profoundly right-wing, quote-unquote, lefties, right? And very sus. And when you actually peel what's under the surface, you see, oh, Dugan, that's one of your favorite dudes. Nick Land, what else is down here? And when you start to dissect it, you realize that what this is the literal fucking ship of Theseus. They're trying to take, okay, you like communism, right? Okay, we're going to take communism, and we're going to take a little bit of, XYZ, a little bit of hatred of LGBT people, a little bit of, this, a little bit of that. And then you make these ideas which are not acceptable on the left right now a little bit more acceptable. And they'll sometimes couch it as like, well, we got to reach out to the, the everyday Americans. I mean, I care more about the everyday Americans. And when you talk to Haas, he'll say shit like those Trump people are less racist than those blue-haired SJWs that are, like he literally called me a fucking white supremacist for calling him a Nazgul. Apparently that's a dog whistle to Haas.
You know what it reminds me of like how fascist, I guess in like
Why
the early
such a racist,
2010s. But yeah, it reminds me of how fascists in like the early 2010s just took on, they just started like connecting. You know how like libertarians are like a huge meme at the time, like everyone was like obsessed with them. Like Ron Paul, that shit. And then they like completely absorbed that whole thing. So like JF, I forget how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, right.
He always said he's just like a a Nazi fascist, right? But he would always go on about how he was a libertarian.
Is that's also the Nazi that abducted
a
mentally disabled woman as well?
But yeah, they successfully recruited. It was very successful for them. Like they really successfully recruited from tons of libertarians. Tons of Ron Paul style libertarians are now Nazis because of that.
Yeah,
it's like a smart tactic.
Just want to point out, JF Garapay talks about degeneracy a lot. He abducted a mentally disabled woman in order to try and impregnate her. That's a thing he did. Yeah.
According to court documents, he has a different story, but
Oh yeah, we don't want to say anything on here, so everyone knows. None of these legal views are endorsed by Bird Brains or Dylan Burns, its owner. So
all I'll say is I've read the court documents.
I've
read the court documents, and that woman was not legally able to consent to her own dental work. Okay, she was mentally not. She wasn't compos mentis. He abducted her in order to try and impregnate her. He's a fucking weird, degenerate piece of shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Sue me, literally, JF. Fucking sue me. I'll have you my day in court, friend.
So that's Kevin Logan. Just so everyone knows, that's Kevin Logan, not.
So hey guys, kind of like taking this back. What do you think that we should be doing with people who we know are bad faith, like Mel? Like, do you think we should just be blocking Mel? Like what do we do on Twitter about these people?
I just blocked her today. Yeah, I agree.
I don't
know. When I came out as gay, she was like cool. I mean, she seems nice.
She's nice.
It's hard, right?
If there was a meme for 2 days.
The term bad faith is thrown around so much on Twitch. That like I'm kind of skeptical of just like creating the standard of if we think someone's bad faith, let's just fully cancel them, like avoid them, ostracize them from the circle. Because I could just totally see that being misused. Like how often is someone called bad faith just because they argued ineffectively, or they were kind of rude in an argument once, or they were just or they just had a different opinion.
So what do we do about someone who we know for a fact gets off on saying and doing whatever for attention, regardless of whether they believe it or mean it, and who will hide behind layers and layers of it's just a joke and irony to obfuscate their disgusting beliefs? What do you think is the most effective way that we handle someone like that in a social media sphere?
I feel like people like Dylan, who are like responsibly hosting debates and responsibly mediating those debates, like are a part of like that solution. Because I didn't see people taking, Tankies or Marxist-Leninists very seriously until recently. And maybe that's a part of it. Just in general, like lefties publicly standing up and saying no, like that this is not cool. Whether like in whatever way that you deem fit. And I think especially like holding responsible debates is a really good way to do that.
Dope.
Fair enough.
I mean, I was going to suggest the
Okay,
wall,
so I win?
but that
Do I
would have
win?
been...
Yeah, you
Do
win.
I win the debate?
Yeah, you win.
I think that was a
Okay,
over,
where's
you
my
win.
hippy dippy championship thing for no
Dylan?
comments?
It was not a sanctioned match. I'm sorry.
No, what the heck? Story of my life.
But yeah, I mean, like, platforms do play a role in like what, you know, especially Twitter, because it's such a different sort of place. I mean, I live by the IMPS code. I generally try to use Twitter as a platform to, you know, just promote. I specifically try not to get involved in some of the drama that goes on in Twitter, just for the reason that like it just brings too much chaos into my life and I can't handle that. The drawback of that though is that like things like the Vosh Mel interaction, I don't end up seeing. Dylan?
What was that?
Sorry, who was that? Somebody was talking.
Oh, don't worry about
Somebody
it.
want to get in?
I mean, there's also the problem of misinformation going completely unchecked. Like, I think that's kind of a huge problem, especially we see things spread so quickly on Twitter as well.
True.
So, yeah, I understand the IMPS code, and I think that Demon Mama is completely on the ball with the IMPS code as far as, like, mental health goes. But I don't know. The amount of... I'm shocked at the amount of misinformation I see on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, and also the slipperiness of things on Twitter, like where you can literally say something on Twitter that could be interpreted two completely valid ways, and then you get this like
255. You are a moderator. You are supposed to be setting an example. God damn it! Keep up the good work.
Designed to have a dual like nature to its message, to sound like a Mott to me and a Bailey to the followers, you know, that are more hardcore.
I always get this confused. What's the Mott and Bailey? Which one's the top?
The Bailey's the extreme view, and the Mott is the you know, like that's a spicy take, but I can see where you're coming from.
Look,
yeah,
I know the Mott and Bailey thing is meant to be like the castle reference, but can I just say Mott is a slang expression for vagina here?
It is. Wow. You learn something new every day.
There you go.
Yeah. Don't want to show somebody your Mott. Okay, anyway.
Okay, guys.
Clip that, clip it.
That way before, but now I did, and there it is. And on that note, yeah. So yeah, I mean, like Twitter does, you know, present its own, you know, sort of challenges that I haven't figured out how to. I feel like I'm trying to handle like one platform at a time or two platforms at a time.
Don't get, for anyone who's watching, do not get your news from Twitter, right? Do not get your information from Twitter. Like, yeah, I would rather you do it from Wikipedia. I can, like, when I engage someone on Twitch or anything, I could completely tell when they're just getting all their opinions from Twitter. Like, you could just start predicting one opinion to the next, and it's very frustrating.
Oh no! Somebody just posted a hat clip.
So okay, it's we've been going at this for about an hour and 40 minutes. Do you wanna go into it? No comment check.
Let's go into it. So how many people in here saw the hippie? Let's see, there was 2 hippie dippies, one the week before last week and one last Friday. Right? Did everybody in here watch those? Yes. Is everybody familiar with the?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched the last one. I didn't watch too much of the one before that.
Okay, so you've at least, the last one's probably the more pertinent one and the one that's, you know, causing more ripples on the across the pond of Twitch, as we alluded to earlier. So yeah, you know, I mean, like this, I guess to set this up for anybody who doesn't know already, there was a hippie dippy championship last week. Now that means that Demon Mama defeated 10 challengers in order to attain the right to challenge the champion. And then when she challenged the champion, it wasn't just the champion, it was the champion and 2 chumpions. But the chumpions were necessary because otherwise we would have a love fest and it would be a circle jerk, I think is the technical term for it. So because we couldn't really do a circle jerk was not what was wanted. It changed into, you know, adding 2 conservatives for Demon Mama and Vosh to push back against. And then Dylan, was it 2 judges or how many judges did you have?
We had 5.
there were 5 judges who scored it just like a boxing match, right? And the person with the most points, Vosh, won the championship.
Yeah. Vosh got the most points and he won. Yep.
So he retains the belt for now. So yeah,
yep, he retained.
That was the outcome of the event. Now there was I guess you had a spicy chat, right, going on in your right. I don't know if do you even read chat when this stuff is going on? I don't have time.
I try to. It's just I'm just busy, but I try to do some moderation because I just don't have enough moderators.
Oh jeez. That's too bad. Yeah, no, my moderators, like, I rely on them for so much and they do a lot of work, and I appreciate it. When chat gets spicy, they are swinging that ban hammer when necessary and leaving it off, and when it's not necessary. So I totally appreciate them for that. But yeah, there was a lot of I guess Discord and chat. I wasn't there live, Dylan. I end up watching. It's actually strange how I experienced the hippie. So I went into my Discord. And while I was like in the voice chat, other people were watching the debate. I started off watching the debate, but then I needed to do some stuff, so I kind of like dipped out of the actual room where I was listening to it. But I was listening to people's reactions to it, and from the reactions that I got, I could tell that there was a lot of people that weren't, super happy how some of the trans issues were discussed, in particular, and that there was just a lot of spice, a lot of even some people going in there and getting banned, which I do not support. But at the same time, if people in my community want to go in and get spicy in somebody else's chat, I can't really stop them. So but there was so much going on. So yeah, I ended up watching it. The first half of that is available right now on YouTube. If you want to watch my reaction to Dylan's Hippy Dippy Championship with Demon Mama Vosh, Rob Noor, and John Burke, right? Were the 4 competitors. The first half is up now. I haven't posted the second half. The second half, I feel like, was people when shit got really fucking contentious, as far as people people's opinion, and some of them were expressed at Dylan. Some of the blame was foisted at
Dylan. Why are you a massive transphobe? What's going on with that?
I went gay because I'm hardcore actually squad Wing. That's the main reason I actually went gay. That's
cool. Oh my god, that's the hardest core squad W I could imagine, actually, when you really think about it. Like that's amazing. Based and what pilled. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to say first and foremost, to the extent that people might have been voicing like attitudes that implied that Dylan himself, was transphobic, I don't see it. And I'm pretty tuned in. I'm pretty pilled, Dylan, on that sort of thing. So I really didn't see it. And, I don't know, there were some things that I wasn't a fan of. There was some things that I wasn't a fan of, but as far as pointing to that coming from any sort of animus or explicit hatred of trans people or transphobia or inner orientation like that, I don't see the argument for that at all. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because I really don't think that discourse is helpful at all, and I don't take it seriously.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a great guy. I understand.
I think it is important, though. I mean, Dylan can speak for himself, but in general, like, that's not the only form of, prejudice that people can have where it's like really obvious. Like a lot of times we don't even realize we have some prejudice. There's someone once said to me that the first thought that comes into your head is not your fault. It's society. It's only the second thought that is your fault. So so society like has such a huge impact on a lot of us having like I'm sure I'm filled with like misogynist ideas, like internalized misogynist ideas. I'm sure I even have some transphobic ideas that I still need to work out. Like just as human beings, we're in a world that's just completely filled with prejudice, right? So I mean, I think there's always a possibility that in any action there might be some kind of prejudice that's associated with it, right?
So we do have a question for from the chat for Dylan. I wanted to ask you, Dylan, like, so since we've kind of gotten, the idea of, Dylan being, transphobic in some way out of the way, what do you think about your guests? Do you personally think, God, I feel like I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you think that Rob or John were transphobic?
I believe anybody who doesn't believe that a trans woman is a woman or a trans man is a man is a transphobe. I believe they hold transphobic beliefs, and I believe that's pretty cut and clear. I went to I went to great extents and great pains to make this point clear. I don't like to come out in this period say like this guest is racist or this guest is homophobic or this guest is this if they hold certain views, because obviously it damages your relationship with guests. And a great example would be I remember Endernax, being the little snake bastard that he is, planted a lot of seeds to try to undermine my show. And one of the things he worked very hard to do was cut a little thing between me and CTV. And the thing is, I said, and I've been public about this since, that I believe that CTV is a transphobe, or at least that. But then I kind of reformed it to he held transphobic opinions. I don't need to necessarily believe somebody holds hate in their heart for somebody to hold transphobic opinions, right? Because somebody can be like, hold like a homophobic opinion, but not be like homophobic. A great example would be like, somebody like talks in a feminine manner and someone's like, oh, that person's gay. That doesn't make you hate gay people, but that is homophobic that immediately you heard a man talk feminine and then you thought they were gay, right? Like nobody could listen to my tone of voice and determine that I'm a homosexual.
So
right?
it portrays implicit bias is what you're saying.
Yeah.
In that
so
case.
I got in a big scuffle with CTV and others because I ended up saying that CTV holds homophobic opinions. And basically it kind of spiraled out of control as I tried to have this conversation. I was demoted in CTV's community into this whole thing. So
oh wow, it's an unfortunate
I was
thing.
demoted from a shaman wolf.
Yeah, this is so. Oh wow. Okay, I see what you mean. The badges and stuff. So this is something I really wanted to ask you about. Is like I've noticed this. So what I see in your panels, like, and Dylan, I do watch them most weeks. I don't watch them every week on stream, but we do a lot of debate analysis, and you provide a lot of content in that regard. So we appreciate you for that. What I see in terms, my unsolicited opinion here is that you have been through a lot of right wingers. Some of those people definitely did not work out. Some of those people, you feel like you've learned, you do not want to, deal with them. They've like flamed out. They've caused TOS issues. They've been a big problem. So you've done a lot of filtering kind of through like some of the worst, actors out there, right? Or not some of the worst ones, but some of the ones that just do not work out for your format, right? For whatever reason. But in this search, in this filtering out, I feel like you've been left with not very many of these right wingers to kind of choose from. I do tend to see, the cast of lefties is changing and all the time. It's a different cast, but the cast of righties a lot of times is very similar from week to week. And I understand that's because you're sort of limited and you're like, all right, this is a trusted quantity. If I have an untrusted quantity, there's some chance that, anything could happen. And I don't want to deal with that fucking chaos. I totally fucking understand that. The thing that I worry about is the way that you just expressed, and I don't know how much you were memeing and how much you were serious, but that like concern of like, yeah, I really burn a bridge there, right? Does that not betray some form of them having power over you? And in the case that you have to go to somebody that doesn't have an audience already, is there a concern about building an audience?
All guests hold certain amount of power over a panel host. That is just, that's just how the format works.
But them more so than the lefties, right?
If I have a smaller amount of guests from a certain side, then that could happen. But I still have, yes.
So would this qualify the conservative side? It seems like you have a smaller plethora of
if I have a smaller pool, then I work a little bit harder to not burn a bridge so easily. Yeah, that's true.
Right. So do you see what kind of compromised position that puts you in? I mean, like, I think I've referred to it before as intellectual capture on stream that you might have heard me say. Maybe I was overstating the case a little bit there. That seems like a little, now that I think of it, that seems a little extreme. But I do, I do worry about the effect that has on the stream of, sort of propping these people up in some cases from nowhere, right? Whereas the rest of us have kind of at least, proven ourselves to be able to gravitate some sort of organic audience to ourselves, right? Kind of creating careers for people that might not otherwise have one. And also just the fact that each of these conservative players becomes immensely powerful and becomes able to call the shots. For instance, like if there was somebody that felt like they didn't want to debate a certain lefty, they might be able to just say, hey, no fly list. And I mean, that's a thing that happens all the time. There's nothing seedy about that. There's nothing, underhanded or back door, what's the word? Back room door about that. That's the wrong one. Yeah, it's back room. There's nothing back room or, underhanded about that. But, it does kind of affect it does affect your content greatly. So
I did a butthole
thoughts?
joke.
Was there any question there? Or was it just that right-wingers there's less right-wingers, so there's...
So is that's you're saying that you agree with me then?
There should be less right-wingers.
No, there was a lot there, so I don't know exactly like what... Okay.
Okay, so, did anything stand out to you as being profoundly wrong that you would take apart?
There are a lot of right-wingers. So knowing that there's less right-wingers than left-wingers, this is true of any market. If I have less of a commodity, then I'm going to work harder to like build that commodity up to make sure that I have a decent amount of people to pull from. The thing is with right-wingers, that simply means that I'll go hang out in their chat sometimes a little bit more. Like, hey, how you doing? You doing well? Everything cool? Just checking in for next Tuesday. How's it doing? Okay, have a nice day. Or I'll send them more DMs than I send other people usually because I'm trying to make sure that I don't burn that bridge in that way.
Yeah, because your machine doesn't go burr without their input, right?
But that doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily bend the rules in order to not have people to have on those right wingers. And I've worked very hard to make it so I can have more options. The Hippy Dippy Recruitment Show is something that we've worked very hard on, and a lot of people don't actually get to see it. And that's purposeful. We don't want a lot of people to watch it. It is a testing ground for people to make sure they'd be good for the format, and that we're not platforming terribly irresponsibly by just someone saying, "Hey, I'm a right-wing streamer. Can I come on?" And we just saying yes. We're like, go through the recruitment process, go through the things. So we are constantly making sure that we are not in a bind where basically somebody could break the rules, and I'm just like, I have to keep them on because I have no other options.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm concerned about is like a lot more subtle than that in terms of, what you end up presenting. And, like this time, I think so we did have Johnny, can you type your question or go back and grab that somebody did have a question and they paid channel points to say it. So I wanted to ask you it when we get a chance. And I feel like now's the chance.
That'd be a good question.
Can somebody grab that question from way back there? Because I cannot scroll up. My fucking Stream Elements is dog shit when it comes to the UI. I hate it. I love what it does and what its capabilities are, and I love how low of a there's a good question. Why is Kevin so handsome? Okay. No, so here's the question.
Thank you for asking, dear chatter. I think it's genetic. It's genetic. Yeah.
It's the K-flow. That's what I would say. It's the K-flow. Okay, so here's the real question for Dylan. So can you understand the frustration of trans people when we see an issue that mostly affects us and on which right-wingers have the advantage of appealing to conventional wisdom and fear-mongering on a gamified platform? We're calling this behavior out is seen as poor sportsmanship by the audience. So yeah, that's the question, if that makes.
Okay, so of course, anybody who is part of an issue or part of a community that is the topic of hand will have a certain emotional connection to that topic. For example, any topic about rape or sexual assault is going to hit me different than it hits somebody who has not been raped. Any topic about homophobia is going to hit me different than it hits somebody else. Any topic about drug abuse is going to hit me different than it hits other people, right? Just makes sense. Somebody with firsthand experience or people whose lives are directly affected by these issues are going to be directly impacted by it. And that's why I work very hard to make sure that I don't have one side in any discussion, ridiculously outbalanced when it comes to having that conversation, when it comes to the skills and rhetoric necessary to have it responsibly. So somebody doesn't say something stupid and have it not go unchecked. If you look at the conversation, if you look at what Rob was saying during the conversation, a lot of it was basically repeating from one study that Vosh brought up at the beginning as a study that should not be that respected when it comes to puberty blockers. And I think when you look at it from an outside perspective, Vosh and Demon Mama and their dialogue on the puberty blockers was very, very effective in slowly tearing apart when it comes to medical freedom, the high rate of success, the fact that the one study that's being cited is inaccurate and is misinterpreting what was actually in the data. And I think it was very effective. Now, when it comes to the gamification of politics, I do understand that any political issue that you gamify it or wrestlingify it is going to be dangerous. Now, I would say that's necessitated on this platform. There's no way you're going to be able to be on Twitch and not gamify or entertainment-fy, education almost you can call it, your content. Anybody coming onto Twitch thinking they're going to be able to do politics on Twitch and they're not going to have to like Twitchify their politics, they're just not going to be able to get to any of size of any note on this platform. That's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to be able to stand here reading like COVID data from spreadsheets and be able to actually like get an audience worth of any note.
Damn, so my Emma Golden Book on Tape stream is out too, huh?
Sadly, yes, it is out. So
yeah, number one is that we're entertainers, right? Like, primarily. And so the best thing that you could do, in my opinion, is accept that you're an entertainer and then hope that you can do some good along with it, like add like cherries on top.
I did want to push back on a little bit of something that you said, Dylan, in terms of, that like, and I do think that Vosh and Demon Mama did an awesome job and that they were really good. I mean, like, they were the, they were the ones that earned their way there. So, like having them there made sense anyway, from that perspective of them being objectively stronger debaters, higher power level debaters, right? What the Scouter says when you like look at the different debate lord, is that like you'd see that they're both over 9,000. So, so there was a reason for them being there. But apart from that, I feel like they both know a lot about this issue. Probably the reason that you picked this issue. Some people asked, like, why did you talk about this issue in such a sports format? And I sort of understood it that basically if you're going to have Demon Mama on, you're going to want to let her shine. And that is her area of like just utter expertise, where she is completely in her wheelhouse and one of the best people to consult on those issues, right? So it made sense to me that you would cover that. I don't really fault you for covering those topics. The thing that I worry about is that Rob was able to concentrate on some edge cases. Rob was able to get Demon Mama and Vosh talking about those edge cases. And what I said in my review, I think if I remember correctly, is that we're talking about dragons. The Arkansas bill, when they banned certain things, they were banning things that aren't done, that aren't medical procedures, like medical procedures that aren't done among certain ages, except like when Demon Mama, talked about in very extreme cases, where physical harm is going to result otherwise, right? It's and so essentially Rob got us talking about those edge cases rather than talking about the preponderance of what goes on in terms of this form of treatment, which, like I pointed out, is absolutely good and safe and reversible. That's the big thing is that like the only thing that's not reversible is the bone mineral, and we don't even know if the bone mineral is significant enough to like say cause more fractures or something like that.
This is always how homophobia and anything against the LGBTQ plus community functions. You know that old meme that was like, I eat the poo-poo, and it was like this pastor in the middle of somewhere in Africa where he's talking about how gay people eat the poop. And what they're doing is bringing an edge.
Dylan, you know better than me. I mean, this is your platform, so
I'm describing just not true. What he's doing is finding an edge cage of a certain part of the gay community that likes, well, really all community, all sexual deviants that eat fecal matter, and that's a fetish. And he's trying to use that to represent the vast majority of cases of what homosexuals are. And on its own, that point, getting people to talk about it, you might see it as a waste of time or as something that's like a deviation. But these edge cases have sadly become mainstream right-wing talking points. Like that, the idea that trans ideology is taking over. What's the transgenderism is the term that usually is used. Transgenderism, which as a word, like anytime I hear someone say that, it's like, here's a word that isn't like implicitly like transphobic, but anytime I hear it, it's like, oh boy, I'm about to hear a hot take. Transgenders is another word I hear a lot. Like I never hear that from somebody who's about to give a really good take on trans.
Or like if somebody
So
says
dehumanizing.
generally that's not Jewish themselves. Generally, you're about to be in for a bad take. Yeah, I know. That's
the Jews. Yeah.
Hey guys.
I gotta ask you really quick. Oh, sorry.
Well, I didn't get.
Irene, I'm gonna need to go because I'm not feeling well. But yeah, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you guys earlier.
No, you're good. You're good.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Everybody follow Merrick on YouTube. Everybody follow Merrick on not Twitter right now. Is any more platforms?
You can follow her friend Eldritch Mother on Twitter.
Oh,
but yeah.
I heard of it. Yeah, it's a base friend.
Yeah.
All right. Definitely follow the Eldritch Mother. She's a good tweeter. So, so Dylan, like the one thing that I'd ask you is, were you to debate Bishop Pastor Martin Sempa, I believe is the man's name, Bishop Pastor Martin Sempa? Would you, and you got hung up on talking about eating the poo-poo for an excessive amount of time, would you consider that a success or a failure? Or
it depends on what you do there, right? For example, if you're like, eat the poo-poo, and I'm like, 99% of homosexuals do not engage in this course, here is the data, and then he just repeats, well, eat the poo-poo, then you just kind of repeat it. It's like, for example, if you look at my conversation with Mel, where we got stuck up on, is there a genocide happening? And I kept on pressing the question that would not be answered. If you press a statistic that cannot be responded to, you can end up making them look terrible. And while I do think that one statistic, the bone thing, was probably disproportionate, I don't think that was the majority of the debate. I'd say that's probably 15 to possibly 18% of it. When you look at the wider discussion that happened there, a lot of it was actually Vosh just saying 99% of these cases are successful. These things are not just because a lot of the ideas is, and this is something even my progressive government teacher in high school told me, which was, I support transgender stuff, but I don't want kids making decisions like this. They're children. It's not children making these decisions. It's children telling doctors the medical experience and their life experience, and doctors taking that information to make the medical determination on whether this is somebody that should be put on puberty blockers or not for their own mental well-being. Because this is something actually I think Vosh and Mama should have brought up, but was not brought up, was the idea that we're talking about the possible medical effects of using puberty blockers. What about the possible medical effects of trans people not using puberty blockers, of the mental health impact that could have, of how that's going to terribly hurt any ability to transition later in life? But I think the vast majority of time was actually explaining basic concepts that neither Rob or John probably had a lot of knowledge of, or their communities have knowledge of. I don't think the vast majority of people thought of the idea, and even I didn't until they said it, about the idea these aren't children making these decisions. These are children allied with their parents and medical professionals making these decisions. These the vast majority of cases here are successful. Vosh started his opening statement talking about data that he knew was going to be used against him and said how it was incorrect, and then Rob proceeded to use it against him. So I think really, when I look at it from, if you look at it just on like how effective Vosh.
How many people that watched the debate, only answer this poll if you watched this debate, how many people got that the stuff that Rob was bringing up was from the study that Vosh debunked? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to use it as an argument of. You can do it in your chat too, Dylan, if you want.
Can I interject?
I wanted to really thank you. Just a second. I want to really thank Dylan because Dylan just brought up something really big. Transgenderism is not a thing. Look, trans rights is a thing. Medical care is a thing. Like when people say transgenderism, they always mean something else. And Dylan's right. It gives this impression that there is like a philosophy out there, an ism that is coming in with an agenda, and that is very deleterious. That's an old trope. It's used against like Jewish people. It's used
the global homo.
Homo. Kevin wanted to jump in. Sorry, I'll hand it over to you. I'm sorry. I know I've talked a lot.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I'm really flagging. It's like 3 a.m, so I'm going to peace out at this point. But
it's good to talk to you. Yeah, super late in the UK. Thank you as always for coming here, Kevin. And the Rory Cats did make an appearance, so my chat is massively happy on that. There are huge stands of Rory Cat. So the stand, is that okay? The other word. The other word is what we don't say. But anyway, follow Kevin Logan, KF Logan on KF Logan 18. What is your number?
It's KF Logan 1875 on Twitch or Kevin Logan on YouTube because my branding game is fucking awesome. So
yeah,
peace out, everyone.
I feel your struggle. Oh, thank you so much for being here, Kevin. Everybody go follow Kevin Logan.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so by the way, 79% of my community saw they got that point.
Oh, there we go, chat. Sorry, I'm flagging completely now. You were flooding her with globo homos, I saw it. Haruka, you cheeky minx. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. Join me again in how many hours? Some number of hours. 16 hours. I'll be back with Sophia tonight to discuss some British stuff and probably some trans stuff and all of that. 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. on the east coast of America, and 8 p.m. Central European time. Thank you all for listening and watching. All of my links are below. No pass around.